All right, let's get right into it. We're looking at a huge construction project that's wrapped in mystery, happening in one of the most remote and strategically important places on the entire planet. The Taliban are building a highway to connect Afghanistan directly to China. They say it's going to completely transform their country, but what's really going on up there?
So take a look at this map. You see that bizarre finger-like piece of land? That's the Wakhan Corridor. For more than 100 years, it's been this desolate, empty buffer zone. But right now, it's the site of a brand new highway. The thing is, details are super scarce. You can barely find any footage. And the truth? It's buried under layers and layers of official secrecy. So we're going to follow an investigator's journey to find out what's really being built.
So this is it, the Wakhan Corridor. It's about 350 kilometers long, and it's just wedged between Tajikistan and Pakistan. I mean, this is a land of massive mountains and valleys that are barely inhabited, and it all ends at this tiny but incredibly important border with China. It is seriously one of the most remote places you could possibly imagine. So how do you even get there to check it out? Well, as it turns out, uncovering the truth about this highway isn't as simple as just showing up. It's a dangerous journey, a real gauntlet for any investigator, and it tells you just as much about the state of Afghanistan today as it does about the road itself. Yeah, you can't just book a flight online for the Wakhan Corridor. The whole trip has to start in Kabul. From there, you're looking at a maze of bureaucracy, trying to get the right permits from the Taliban. After that, it's a grueling, multi-day drive on some pretty treacherous roads to a town called Faizabad, and then, finally, to Ishkashim, which is basically the front door to the corridor. And all of that, that's before the real investigation even starts. And the risks are just immense. I mean, imagine driving for days, hitting checkpoint after checkpoint, each one manned by Taliban soldiers where the rules can change on a whim. The altitude sickness can be absolutely debilitating. And out here, you are completely, totally on your own. No cell signal, no doctors. If anything goes wrong, you're days away from any real medical care. It's that extreme danger and isolation that really explains why we know so little about what's going on. Now, to really get why a road right here is such a big deal, you have to look at the history. This land has a well-earned and frankly chilling nickname, the Graveyard of Empires. It's a place where global superpowers have come again and again, trying to impose their will, and again, they have failed. This timeline really gives you the quick version. Back in the 19th century, the British and Russian empires literally created the Wakhan Corridor to be a buffer zone during their great game for control of Central Asia. Fast forward to 1979, the Soviet Union invades, kicking off a brutal war. Then in 2001, of course, the US invades. And finally, in 2021, after 2 decades, the US and its allies pull out and the Taliban sweep right back into power. And that brings us to today, because now there's a new global power with its eyes on this region, China. And this remote highway project, it's not just about some local road. It fits into a much, much bigger strategic plan. And that grand plan is the Belt and Road Initiative, which you might have heard of as the New Silk Road. It's China's absolutely massive global project to build infrastructure, ports, railways, highways, all to expand its economic and political influence. The goal is to create these new trade arteries, connecting Asia with Africa and Europe, over land and by sea. Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. Why is China so invested in this? Well, a few big reasons. First, Afghanistan is sitting on what's estimated to be $1 trillion worth of untapped minerals, like lithium and copper. This road could also give China a new land route for trade, which helps them bypass sea lanes controlled by rivals. And, of course, it's a way to help secure its own border from militant groups that might be hiding out in the region. Now, for the Taliban, who are pretty much cut off from the rest of the world, this project is a huge deal. This quote really sums up how they see it. For them, this highway is all about economic hope. It's their chance to turn their isolated, sanctioned country into a vital transit hub, and by doing that, maybe, just maybe, gain some legitimacy on the world stage. So you've got this grand vision, right, from both sides. But what did the investigator actually find when he finally made it there? Well, the reality on the ground tells a very, very different story. It's a story that ends not at an open border, but at a wall of silence. And this is where that grand ambition just smacks right into reality. The major highway the Taliban are promoting, it's actually just a simple gravel road. The thriving trade artery, there's zero sign of any real commerce. And that open border they're dreaming of, it's a wall of fences, barbed wire, and guard posts. The whole thing is just wrapped in secrecy. And here's the kicker. When the reporter got close to the end, He was told, point blank, that he was forbidden from filming the final stretch to the Chinese border. And later, the Taliban's intelligence service actually demanded that he delete all the footage he'd taken of the road. So you have to ask yourself, why all the secrecy? Is there tension with China? Are they maybe hiding a lack of real progress? Or is it all about controlling the story for their own people? The secrecy itself tells you a whole lot.
But look, this story isn't just about geopolitics and gravel roads. There's a really crucial human side to all of this. We need to talk about the people who actually live there. The 1,000 to 2,000 Kyrgyz nomads who call this desolate, high-altitude landscape home. For generations, these people have been some of the most isolated on Earth. And for them, even this simple gravel road is a total game changer. One of the locals explained that what used to be a journey that took several weeks just on foot to go buy flour has been completely transformed. Now, traders can actually drive in with their cars, bringing essentials, but also things like pasta, melons, and shoes. For a community so cut off from the world, this is a profound, tangible, positive change. But that new connection comes at a price. Because even way out here in these remote valleys, the Taliban's harsh rules apply. Girls are banned from school after they turn 12. Their future is just cut short. And the reporter found out he was strictly prohibited from filming any women, who, by the way, do most of the daily labor. So you have a project that brings this physical connection, but at the same time, it enforces a really harsh social isolation, making half the population completely invisible. So all this brings us to the big question. After all the risks, the history, the conflicting stories, where is this road actually going? I mean, what does it really represent for the future of Afghanistan? The whole thing is just a massive contradiction, right? On one hand, the road connects isolated communities, but it's being built by a regime that's isolating its women. It's supposed to be a symbol of economic hope, but it's totally impractical for the kind of heavy trade it promises. It's presented as a step towards global integration, but for now, it's just a road to nowhere for serious business. It's a project that is somehow moving both forward and backward at the same time. And here's a really important reality check from the experts. They point out that this 120-kilometer stretch of road, it's just one tiny piece of a giant puzzle. For this route to ever become a real international trade hub, you'd need to invest a ton of money into upgrading hundreds of miles of the surrounding roads. A single gravel road just doesn't create a new Silk Road. So we're left with this question. This highway has brought some small, real benefits to a few people, but it's also a tool for a repressive regime. And it falls way short of its own grand promises. So is this the start of a new chapter for Afghanistan? A real path to prosperity and connection? Or is it just the latest ambitious dream that's destined to be swallowed up by the harsh realities of the graveyard of empires?